Indiana had a surprising season last year, going 11-2 and making the college football playoff, in a run that no one could predict it, unless you were Kirk Cignetti and that Indiana football staff. Let's get into it. Indiana hired Kirk Cignetti after he went 41-8 at James Madison University. And being at JMU, a lot of people knew what he was building and doing there, and then he makes the jump. And a lot of people thought that he could become a good coach for Indiana, but nothing like we've seen last year, especially in year one. A surprise college football playoff appearance, which ended to Notre Dame at Notre Dame Stadium, is, if for anybody else, could be looked at as, man, we were so close. But for Indiana, a magical season. This is a program that has a under 500 career winning percentage. Let me say that again. In Indiana's football program history, they have a under 500 winning percentage. That is just insane. And Kirk Cignetti came in year one, goes 11-2, and makes the college football playoff. And the way he's talking, this team coming up this year could be even better, as they like what they did in the transfer portal and even what they had with guys coming back. Speaking of the transfer portal, Indiana went out and got Fernando Mendoza, Cal's starting quarterback, and he's a pretty decent quarterback, or a little over 3,000 yards last year, 16 touchdowns only, but only 6 interceptions, so he takes care of the football. When the pocket is clean with Fernando Mendoza, he's a good quarterback. The issue with Mendoza is when the pocket starts to collapse and there's pressure, he kind of gets wild, and we'll have to see how that goes. I think in Cignetti's offense with Indiana and what they have built, even in this short time, I think he fits perfectly and fits like a glove. And part of the reason why he went there was to be with his younger brother, Alberto, who is a freshman this upcoming season. And Indiana got 2 running backs in the portal. I want to focus right now on Lee Beebe Jr., who from UAB, 885 yards last year, only 166 carries, 7 touchdowns. So yes, that is 5 yards a pop. He'll add to that Indiana running back room in that run game, which is something that I think they can lean on this year. Fernando Mendoza, who, yes, is a fine quarterback. You don't got to lean on his arm. You can kind of lean on this run game a little bit. And BB is a perfect guy for that, and a complimentary role as well for this other guy we're going to get into. Indiana went out and also got Roman Hemby from Maryland, so you're hurting a conference opponent in Maryland and getting Roman to come over. A little over 600 yards last year on 134 carries, 6 touchdowns, about 4.5 yards a pop. I think Hemby and BB are a great complementary to each other. They can take the top off the defense. For example, Roman Hemby had a 75-yard touchdown against Northwestern last year. And I just think these two guys can complement each other. They can run through you. They can run past you. And I just think it's going to complement this Indiana offense so much more. And honestly, a lot better than even what Indiana had last year. And they had a pretty good mix last year as well. Elijah Sarah out at wide receiver. A lot of people thought he might enter the NFL draft this past year. Comes back for his senior year, 53 catches, about 40 yards short of 1,000 yards last year, 8 touchdowns, and he's a guy that when he catches the ball, it's an explosive play, about 18 yards average for his catches. The guy is an explosive play, 6'2", about 210 pounds, a thick body as well. Really nice route tree, just a guy that just gets open no matter the coverage or who's across him. Just a guy that knows his strengths and knows his weaknesses, and I think he's in line for a big year. And then there's Miguel Kamara. It just wasn't the offensive side last year for Indiana. Kamara had 10 sacks last year and 2 forced fumbles off the edge. They get him back for his senior season as well. 6'1", 265, so he's got that NFL body off the edge. He had a 2.5 sack game last year against Michigan State. Only had 3 tackles against Notre Dame, but then again, Notre Dame was a run-heavy team last year, so not a lot of real opportunities to rush the passer last year, especially how that game kind of started. But just a guy that adds some oomph to this Indiana defense. And then we got Aiden Fisher at linebacker. Also came back for his senior year. 118 tackles last year, second half. So the guy is a tackling machine, sideline to sideline, and he'll lay the wood down on you. You meet him in the hole, he is going to lay the lumber. So just add some real physicality to this Indiana defense. Like I said, it wasn't all the offense last year. They had guys on defense that made plays and just really brought that physicality that you need in the sport like football. And then there's D'Angelo Pons, followed Kirk Cignetti from JMU, and is honestly on that short list of the best corners in the sport. Had 55 tackles last year, 3 picks, which you like a corner that doesn't get a ton of picks, and I know that might sound kind of crazy, but it's not. If you don't get a ton of picks, means you're not getting a ton of opportunities, which means teams aren't throwing you the ball because you're locking down the receiver. But in the little chances that he did get the ball thrown to him, he comes up and makes plays. Even had a pick 6 last year. D'Angelo Pons is a really good corner, and would not be surprised to see him playing on Sundays at this time next year. And let's get into the schedule. They started off the season with Old Dominion, then Kennesaw State, and then Indiana State. I think that's 3 easy wins for Kirk Cignetti. And then we get to Illinois, who a lot of people are picking to be this year's Indiana. They're 11th ranked. They get them at home. I think Illinois pulls this one out, though, but I think this will be a really, really good game. And then they travel to Iowa at Iowa, and I would not be surprised if Iowa wins that game, but I could see Indiana win it as well. I think this is back-to-back weeks where Indiana's in dogfights. Then they get their bye, and then they travel to Oregon. I think they lose to Oregon. I think Oregon's going to be a really good team again this year. Then you get Michigan State, UCLA. I think that's 2 easy wins for them, but I expect Michigan State to be better, but I think Indiana can handle those 2 teams pretty well. Then you go to Maryland. I think you squeak that one out. Then you go to Penn State. Sorry, Indiana, I don't see you pulling that one out in Beaver Stadium. Take on Wisconsin. There's a chance Luke Fickell's already fired by then, so you should pull that out. Get your bye, and then you get the rivalry game at Purdue, which I think Indiana does pull out. And there, I can see anywhere from this Indiana team from 6 wins all the way to 9, 10 wins. But I think they're comfortably in that 8, 9 win team. I think they take a step back in terms of what they did last year. That's because last year was just a ridiculous high for this Indiana football program, but they're definitely headed in the right direction with Kirk Cignetti. I think they barely missed the playoffs this year. Then we got to hear all the people talk about how they didn't deserve it last year, even though this year's team doesn't equate to what happened last season. College football fans are crazy, but that's why we love this sport. But yeah, I think Indiana, comfortably 8, 9 win team. I think they come out the gates 3-0, and then take a loss. Iowa can go either way, but I just think at Penn State and at Oregon, I could see them getting bulldozed by Oregon just because that travel up to Eugene from Bloomington is crazy. It's 2025 college football, ladies and gentlemen. But at Beaver Stadium, I think it's going to be a good game. I do. But I just think Penn State and Drew Aller and James Franklin, if anything's going to happen, it's got to be this year. I think they pull that out. Indiana falls, but I think they, finish the year with 2 strong wins against Wisconsin and Purdue. Kind of go into this offseason again, hit the portal strong again, have a good portal class, have a good recruiting class, and then I think for the 2026 season, Indiana could be right back into the college football playoff. I just think this year's kind of a little bit of a quote-unquote step back in terms of what happened last year, but that's just because last year was just so, no one predicted Indiana to do what they did, and that's just credit to what Kirk Cignetti's building there and what his staff is building there in Bloomington, Indiana. As always, thank you for watching. If you made it this far in the video, I really do appreciate it. But please subscribe, and turn post notifications on, and let me know down in the comments, what do you think Indiana's final record will be this season? And do you think that they will be back in the college football playoff again for the 2nd year in a row?